Lee Thomas.
BBC Radio Stoke.
Now, 3 friends have cycled 400 miles across 4 countries in 5 days to raise thousands for charity. Warren Thomas from Stone and his cycling partners, Mark Atkinson and Robert Wheeler, apt name, rode from Birmingham to Brussels. I caught up with them on Friday, actually, and asked why they put themselves through it.
It started January 2011. We had the idea of doing a bike ride. We wanted to do something for the Stroke Association, particularly, because all our families had been affected by strokes. When we got to the middle of 2011, a very close friend of ours at work had a stroke in the workplace, which really focused us and made us realise we'd chosen the right cause. So we set about really starting to plan for the B2B ride, but we also did some support rides from April through July this year, where once a month we did a different event, including went to Wales and back from Stone, my hometown. We did the Enduro 300, as we called it, which was a relay round Birmingham City, which we did 366 miles in the end, 37 laps. That was us plus another 7 riders as well. We did the 10k Manchester run to Old Trafford and back around the city of Manchester, Mark's hometown, and then we did the Oxford Challenge, where we basically did a dry run of what would be more or less stage 1 of the B2B ride by going from Birmingham to Oxford.
And the point is, you weren't hardcore cyclists before this, were you?
No, the last time I rode a racer, as you call them, I was about 12-year-old, 13, something like that. So the other 2 guys bought their bikes last year for the roads. Warren's done a bit of mountain biking previously, but I only bought mine in February this year. I went out on it the first time in March. So yeah, challenge of doing 400 miles in 5 days was a bit steep learning curve, really.
Talk us through this then. How was it? How's it been?
It was really tough. First 3 days in the UK were tough because it's hilly. The UK is hilly. You can't get away from it. And second day we drove through the centre of London as well. So that was cycle for 100 yards, stop. Cycle for 100 yards, stop. And you just had to keep your wits about you. But it was fantastic. And when we got across the water, I mean, we had, for the ferry, it was that tight the timing, is that we actually cycled up the ramp with like 2 minutes to go, past passport control, and they just waved us on up onto the ferry. But getting across onto the continent was fantastic. Yeah, they treat cyclists differently. You've got psychopaths everywhere. Cars stop on islands for cyclists. I mean, it's a massive contrast. I mean, we love cycling in the UK, don't get me wrong, but just the contrast was just unbelievable.
I think to add to what Rob said there as well, the other thing about England, whilst it's hilly, we also had unfortunately we had a headwind all the way through the UK, and also it didn't half rain. At times, certainly on the Monday, we finished the day in about the last 20 miles, I think it rained going into a place called Postcombe, just the other side of Oxford. But to be fair, the continent has its fair share as well. We started the first 15 miles in Calais in pretty serious rain as well. So we saw the best and worst of everything, I think it's fair to say.
What was the high point of the trip?
For me, it was going down the hills towards Dover. We had just under half an hour before the last check-in for our ferry that we booked. We had to do 9 miles. 6 of it was downhill and 3 of it was flat, which was quite nice. And we gave it everything we had down there because we didn't want to miss the ferry and have to pay extra to go on the later one. So the 3 of us, we had a mini peloton going on and we were really shifting down those hills.
Axel set the pace on that bit, I must admit. In that last half an hour, we absolutely flew into Dover and we made it, as Rob said, with 2 minutes to go.
Was there a real adrenaline buzz then at stages?
Oh, massive. I just remember the last sort of 3 miles going through Brussels and just saying to Faz, how cool is this? We were just stopping the traffic. The last few miles, it was like going to get to the finish kind of thing. All the way through, there were little highs. I got an actual sort of physical high on the second day when we got to the top of one of the climbs. I was thinking, this is pretty good. And just knowing that we were doing it for the cause and people were behind us, people were watching us on like a tracking thing at work. And the money was piling onto the Just Giving site. It was just a real buzz the whole week.
Was there any stage where your legs just gave up or your chest, you just couldn't take any more?
There was a couple of hills that turned into walls, there's no doubt about it. And I must admit, personally, there's a couple of places where I just stopped, got off, stood there, but I must admit, we all refused to walk. It was a case of just stand where you are, get back on the bike and go, and we just got the heart rate down again a little bit. But yeah, there was some serious hills.
When you arrived in Brussels, what did you reward yourself with? And when you got back here, what was the first thing you did too?
Well, luckily enough, through the planning, we coincided our arrival in Brussels with a beer festival.
Oh, hey, I imagine that.
There was a nice choice of, I think, 285 beers to choose from, all different flavours, different strengths. So it was a glass of champagne outside our hotel, and then a quick shower, and then we just had a few beers.
What
but the problem, yeah, it was a coincidence. But the problem we had each night when we were doing the ride, you literally have, like, you know, you're constantly thinking about how much liquid you've got to take on and rehydrate yourself. So you'd have a couple of beers at night, and that was about it. But because you'd been exercising all day, it sort of sent you a bit delirious. So we had to update our blog site every night, and it just became a shambles, really.
It did.
We had Rob eventually doing little sketches with pens in hotel restaurants and things like that, and just giggling to himself. It was comedy at night.
Yeah, we were pretty delirious at night, to say.
And you mentioned the Just Giving page, and you're still accepting donations, aren't you?
Absolutely. We're now up to, as of this morning, when we left Just, we were on 9,444 on a 10 grand target. So we are so close, so close, and it'd be great to try and hit that target. It's justgiving.com/team B2B. That's the number 2. And our regular site is teamb2b.wordpress.com, which is where we've done our comedy blogs, as Mark's alluded to, as well as other training notes and our routes on there. And other people, if they fancy doing some or even all of the ride, they can contact us via there for details, and we're more than willing to obviously talk about this forevermore. We're really still going to live on it for some time, I think.
And now you've had the taste of it, where's next?
Well,
we're all sort of...
I mean, my initial thought was to do the 3 peaks, but cycle between the peaks. So actually,
in 24 hours.
Oh, I think 24 hours might be stretching. That would be stretching it, yeah, because there are like sort of 300 miles cycles in between. So it would need some careful planning, but that's just a thought at the moment. But certainly, I want to stay on road biking. I used to do some running, and that was too hard on my knees, and biking's the future for me, definitely. So definitely something involving a bike again.
We've all been out training since we got back because we can't help ourselves, basically, and that's the time when you think about these things, and I'm sure the lads have been the same as me. As soon as I got out on the bike, and it was what next, it's all you can think of.
That was Warren Thomas from Stone and his cycling partners Mark Atkinson and Robert Wheeler, who cycled from Birmingham to Brussels to raise money for the Stroke Association.
Lee Thomas, BBC Radio Stoke.